The modified oblique sit is a great exercise to work on both the mobility and the strengthening of that hip capsule. So to start off, we're going to focus on my left-sided hip. So you can set this up similarly to me if you want to start there. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put that hip underneath us and then walk our legs down so they're not hiked up here. I want you to push them down so it's at a relatively 90-degree angle from your torso. From there, you can go ahead, hinge at those hips, bring the torso forward, and you can go ahead and just let that other leg hang out straight, relatively bent. It doesn't really matter for this exercise. What I want you to be focusing on is feeling the work happen on this downside hip. So the movement's gonna look like this, but there's a couple things to note with it. When I'm going and I'm lifting my hip away from the ground, before I do anything, a prerequisite is for me to get that abdominal pressure that we talked about. That stability through the abdomen, that low back. So all of the load that I am pushing up through the hip, I can feel it in the posterior hip capsule. I'm not dumping into the low back. So think about expanding that abdomen, getting a nice amount of belly pressure here. And what I'm going to do is think about getting nice and long through this hip, as if to tuck it down. I don't want to hike it up as I go up through this movement. So get that belly pressure, think nice and long through that hip. I'm going to drive through my left knee to lift my hips away from the ground. And hold. Notice my hip isn't hiked up, thinking nice and long here to feel a nice stretch back into that posterior hip capsule. Pushing the ground away, staying tall in that upper back, protecting that neck. We're not taking any time off here. We're going to go down, touch, come back up. Down, touch, come back up. What that looks like on the other side, we're going to go ahead and flip around here. Similarly, we don't want this super hiked up here. We want to bring it down at a relatively 90-degree angle for my torso as I bend over to that ground. Go ahead, let that other hip leg hang out and relax. Push that ground away. Grab some belly pressure. Think nice long through that abdomen and torso. I'm not hiking my hip up here. Thinking nice and long, tucking it down and back, and hold. All of my pressure here is stabilizing through my elbows as I'm pushing that ground away, as well as this downside knee. Yes, this other leg is creating a little bit of stability here. That's inherent. But what I want you to focus on is the majority of the work happening here. Down, touch, and up. Notice as I do this, I'm not hiking that hip up. I'm keeping it in nice, long, elongated position.